Okay, you probably already know the story that Van Halen was originally signed by Gene Simmons of Kiss, who then recorded a demo tape with the band and attempted to get his management company, Casablanca Records, to take the band on and turn them into stars by taking them out on tour with Kiss. However, the deal never went through, mainly due to the hesitation on behalf of both Bill Aucoin and Paul Stanley. Now let's listen to Gene Simmons talk about the whole thing, how it all went down. Here's Gene Simmons.
I found a band called Van Halen. I then convinced them not to sign with a yogurt manufacturer who was about to literally own the band.
Which is in the book also.
And flew them to New York and produced their first demo, which included the entire first record and a lot of other tunes that wound up through the years. And couldn't convince Bill Aucoin to sign them or the record company because Bill Aucoin thought that they looked like Black Oak, Arkansas. And I told him he was on crack again because nobody knew who that band was, and so what if they were there? This is the next big band in America. I really believed it. I couldn't convince anybody.
All right. The thing I want to focus on in that statement is the comparison that Bill Aucoin and Paul Stanley made between Van Halen and the band Black Oak, Arkansas. And if you're wondering who Black Oak, Arkansas is, I'm going to tell you right now. They are a southern rock band that was formed in 1963, and they rose to prominence during the 1970s. And most importantly, they were led by a charismatic frontman named Jim Dandy. And the comparison between early Van Halen and Black Oak, Arkansas is almost entirely between David Lee Roth and Jim Dandy. So here's the thing. In the early time of Van Halen, David Lee Roth did borrow a lot from Jim Dandy, and he dressed like him, and he used a lot of his onstage antics. Let's listen to Jim Dandy talk about David Lee Roth borrowing from him real quickly.
David Lee Roth ever thank you?
Well, he kind of begrudgingly was thanked me for not saying that he stole anything from me. And I told him, I said, you couldn't steal nothing from me. I got it for nothing. He got it for nothing. I wouldn't advise it to most people, not unless they have true blue want to. They shouldn't. I had a song I wrote not too long ago called I Wouldn't Want to Be Like Me If I Was You.
What he's trying to get at there is that it's much better to be authentically yourself because then you don't end up in a personality crisis. So what I want to springboard off of there is that David Lee Roth only used the Jim Dandy persona to get himself rolling. Once Van Halen had been established and started getting a little bit seasoning to them, the influence was very minimal. And I think that Jim Dandy here is saying, look, it's okay that he borrowed from me because he eventually developed his own thing. I also think that while there was substantial borrowing going on in the early days, I don't think this is why Bill Aucoin and Kiss's management decided to not take Van Halen on. I think that the reason that they decided not to do it is because Paul Stanley didn't want them to. And this comes from Paul Stanley's own statements on the matter, where he said, look, we didn't want anything to interfere with Kiss. It wasn't even about whether or not Van Halen was going to be successful. Now, there's one last thing I want to point out, and that is what was the consequences for Van Halen that they weren't signed by Bill Aucoin and Kiss. The consequences are they ended up getting a really bad deal with Warner Brothers. So let's listen to Eddie Van Halen talk about that real quick.
They called it a Motown deal.
Okay, go ahead, man.
Which was,
as you remember,
which was,
I'll do it, and then you do it.
Which was an 11-point deal. That's that we didn't find out until much later. That a point is 1%, not of 100%, but 1% of 90%. So they paid you on 90% of them. So you're not getting paid on a buck. You're getting paid on 90 cents. And 3 points went to Ted, our producer.
The producer.
Okay, so that leaves 8. Out of the 8, we had to pay agents, attorneys.
Well, the whole thing was a loan. It was like an 18% loan.
Yeah, but I mean, the band, if I remember right, got the split, I think 3 points.
Yeah, we toured for a year, and they still owed $1 million or something like that.
We toured,
We owed $1 million.
we went platinum. We toured for a year. We came back, and Warner Brothers. Can I mention that Warner Brothers told us that we owed them $2 million.
And on top of that, we owed him another record.
Yeah.
All right, so you get an idea of what Van Halen ended up signing into and how long it took them to dig themselves out of debt to their own record company, how many times they had to tour the world, how many albums they had to make just to begin to see a glimmer of profit. Now, there's no guarantee that signing with Gene Simmons and Casablanca Records and Bill Aucoin would have done any better for them. But I think that it might have, because I think that they got an extra bad deal when they signed with Warner Brothers. And I think that even if they would have just gotten a standard boilerplate deal with another record company, they would have done better. So anyway, what we get here from this is a little bit of insight into how both the creative process and the business process works. One thing is, there's a lot of borrowing in the creative process, both visually, image-wise, and musically, all across the music industry. And that's standard and normal, and I think that you can get a feeling for that in the way that Jim Dandy responded to some of David Lee Roth's early borrowings. The second insight we can gain is that the music industry is very harsh and brutal on musicians. So when you see someone out there who has attained success in the music industry, you should think of them as a survivor who has attained well-earned status. This is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. Also check out the join button that's available for you now. Choose to become a channel member. You'll gain access to members only badges, members only polls, members only videos, and other cool perks you'll see when you click on the button. You can also help support the channel by clicking on the Buy Me a Coffee link, going to the Buy Me a Coffee site, and leaving a donation. Every little bit helps this channel stay strong. Thanks a lot.